Hey everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. For those of you who don't know, I am Sarah Davis and I go by the Barbell Queen. Today is going to be a little bit different. So last week on my Instagram I rolled out a question thing on my story asking for any questions that people have relating to training, just weightlifting, but kind of keeping it specific to that training thing rather than like say nutrition and all that kind of stuff. So on that, I had some really cool questions through, and I obviously said I was going to do the video to answer them, so we are here. And the other thing that's a little bit different is that today I'm actually doing a giveaway as well for my YouTube for the first ever time. So you guys can win yourself this Eleiko belt, Eleiko, whatever you want to call it, belt signed by yours truly. So this belt is barely worn, but I bought it when I went up to 69 kilos. It's a medium. And it's a little bit too big for me now. So this belt is barely worn. However, it was worn on the stage at the Commonwealth Games that won me that silver medal. So keep watching this video, and at the end I will tell you guys how you enter the giveaway to receive this. So on to the questions. So the first question, I tried to put all the questions kind of similar together. So they didn't do them in the order they came through, else we'd have been like all over the place. So first question is, how did I get into weightlifting? Now this is a question that over the last 12 months I've been trying to find a different answer to, because I mean I'm going to tell you guys the real answer, and then I'm going to tell you the answer that I'm kind of going to start using in the media, and you'll see why. So I originally got into weightlifting because my ex got me into it. So he was a weightlifter, competed in London 2012, and he told me to give it a go. So we were visiting his family in Southeast London once, which is where he grew up, and also where Zoe Smith, my now teammate slash sometimes rival, because sometimes we're in the same weight class. So that's where they both learned to do weightlifting, and they were in the gym training, and I was kind of just sat there watching, and they said, you know, why don't you give it a try? Like, this is a snatch, this is a clean and jerk, give it a try and see what happens. And I snatched 30 kilos, clean and jerked 40 kilos, and here we are 8.5 years later. So that was in September 2011 when I learned to lift, which is when I was at university. So my answer that I'm now going to use for the media is like, oh, I found weightlifting when I was at uni, because that's where the national centre was for weightlifting in the build to London 2012. So that's how I got into weightlifting. Gonna have to tweak my story a little bit because I don't really want to keep talking about him because he's a jerk, but that's a whole different video in its own entity. So on from that, someone then asked me, like, what was it like? How quick did you progress, and what to expect when you start weightlifting? So I was really fortunate. I just turned 19, so my birthday's in August. So I just turned 19 when I started lifting in the September, and I have a gymnastics background. So I did gymnastics as a kid for many, many years to a reasonably high level. So, you know, I had good body awareness, I had good flexibility, I had good strength. But I also had the thing on my side that weightlifting wasn't that popular then. So it's kind of, I got success really quickly because I did my first competition. So I started in the September, I did my first competition in like the November, and I did a 45 snatch and a 65 clean and jerk, which qualified me for the English that January, February time. Because at the time at 63 kilos in the old weight class, you only had to do a 90 kilo total to qualify for the English. I think now it's like maybe 130 or 140, because there's just so many more women that do weightlifting. And I progressed really quickly because as soon as I realized, like, you know, well, I turned up to that English and I won a medal because there was 3 girls in the weight class and it wasn't that competitive. So because I saw that quick success, I was like, okay, like, I'm going to be the best I can be at this. So I started training and pushing myself quite early, and I had the ability to do so. I was a student, I didn't have anything else really going on other than my studying. So my recovery was good, and like I had youth on my side and stuff like that. So I progressed pretty quickly, and I was in an environment, you know, in the gym where the national team were training for the Olympics. So I got to kind of like sneak in and watch those guys train, and you know, it was cool to be around that and to be surrounded by good technique. I think made a big impact on my career as well, because I never learned or had the opportunity to learn bad technique because I didn't know what it looked like. So that was definitely a helping hand, I think, in my career. So the next question was, what are my dreams and future goals? So my biggest dream is to be Olympic champion and to be also Commonwealth champion. So I got the silver medal at the last Commonwealth Games and was very close to the gold. So this time I intend to it is in Birmingham, the next Commonwealth Games, so I intend to have the gold. But I also plan to be the first British woman to ever win a weightlifting medal for Great Britain, because women's weightlifting only came into the Olympics in 2000 and we haven't had a medal yet. So watch this space. And then the question that comes on for is, how did you become an Olympian? So I'm not yet an Olympian. I haven't yet been to an Olympic Games, but I do intend to be going to this next one in Tokyo, which is now a little bit delayed. So the Olympic qualification is really difficult and really complex, but basically you have to have a top 8 world ranking in your weight class from the 2-year period leading up to the Games as the qualification competitions. All Things Gym actually have a really cool kind of article on this. It's quite long, so it's definitely one to bed down and read. But I'll link it down below so you guys, if you're interested, can read it, because it takes some time to process it. I mean, there's a lot of people in the game, like in the qualification, that still don't fully understand the process. So how often do I train, like time and per week? So I train 5 days a week and I train for about 3 hours for each of those sessions. So people always think that to be an elite level lifter you have to be training like twice a day, every day, and just pounding yourself into a bit of a hole. But you can't train at like such a high intensity doing double sessions as a clean athlete. Like the biggest part of like weightlifting and getting strong is sleep and recovery. So if you're training like that, you can't recover. So that's why we just do 5 sessions, 3 hours a session ish, and then making sure that I'm recovering properly in between. And what does my week look like? So for me, typically I train Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. So Monday, Wednesday and Friday are like competition lift days, I'd say. So if I'm in a normal build up to a competition, obviously right now is a little bit different. So Monday and Wednesday will be either snatch or clean and jerk variation, and then like pulls and squats. Friday we'd normally do both lifts, and then squats. And then Tuesday and Saturday are kind of like active recovery days. So I'll do stuff, say like muscle snatch or overhead like jerks and stuff like that, and my more strength and conditioning based stuff like my kettlebells and my lunges and stuff like that. So it's only actually like 3 hard sessions a week. What does on-off season look like? So with weightlifting being an indoor sport, we don't really have like an on or off season. The only time I'd really say we get that is after a major game. So after a Commonwealth Games or after an Olympic Games, I'll take a month or so where I take my foot off the gas, but then it's straight back into the next thing. So say after the Commonwealth Games, we're in April in 2018, I kind of had the rest of April and May to relax, and then June I was back in and training because we had the World Championships and our first Olympic qualifying event at the back end of that year. It was like October, November time. So typically we have the Worlds at the end of the year, the Europeans at like April time, and then we have our national championships as well in the summer. So there isn't really that much time for, like, there isn't an on-off season because it's indoors all year. So, but there are times like after a competition, I'll try and sneak a week for a holiday or whatever it is, just to get that little bit of downtime. What do the different cycles look like in the months up to competition? So this last couple of years have been a little bit different because we've not really had time to have that many different cycles with the way the competition schedule has worked for Olympic qualification. But typically, like out from competition, say you've got like a 16-week build up. The first 4-6 weeks will be a strength block, so high volume, loads of reps, and just getting the work in and building the strength. And then we'll have like sort of drop the reps back and start increasing the weight and do, even more technical stuff with the heavier weights for another like 4-6 weeks. And then the last 6 weeks into competition are really focused around the competition lifts, so snatch and clean and jerk, and much lower reps, but a little bit of a mixture of both, so that there's still reps to work on technical stuff, but then you're starting to get your body used to lifting the heavier singles and stuff like that. Have I ever done a squat program such as Russian or Smolov? So I've never even attempted Smolov because to do it as a clean athlete and to do it properly is very difficult, especially once you're already an established lifter. The only time I ever did a Russian program was when I was still fairly new to lifting and I had a weak squat compared to my lifts, because where I could move my body well, I managed to lift bigger weights than I was actually like squat strength strong enough to do, because I could just move efficiently. So I did a Russian program then and saw some success. Like I got 5 kilos, I think, but it's not something I would ever try and do now, especially because of how my competition schedule is. Like I don't get that block of time to beat myself up that much on squats and be allowed to take myself back off the lifting. Even as an established lifter, you know, there's still technical stuff to be working on. It's still important that you keep your lifting in the whole way through, and I just don't think that's that possible to keep that as a main focus whilst still doing like the competition lifts. And then another question I had was, is 5x5 the best squat program for overall leg strength? I think that depends completely on the person. It is, you know, 5x5 is good for building leg strength, and you get, you know, you will get a carryover no matter, as long as you're squatting and you're doing reps, like not just doing singles, you will get stronger. Like, to be fair, even singles will get you a bit stronger, but they'll get you good at doing singles rather than building much muscle mass and stuff. So the way that I squat is I vary my reps throughout the week. So like even in a, you know, in a strength cycle, I'll have maybe some 6s, maybe some 5s, and maybe even some 3s. That's back squat. And then my front squats, to be fair, I'd never do more than 5s on front squat. Generally I try and stick to 3s because I pass out really easily when the bar's on my windpipe. Not really a fan of paused front squats. Again, sends me dizzy. Paused back squats on the other hand, like 6s on paused back squat, they'll make you strong, that's for sure. So yeah, I just kind of keep it varied rather than doing regular like 5x5s and stuff like that. In the question box, someone just put power or split jerk. So for me, like in competition, I split jerk. The reason that we split jerk is there's more margin for error to like run forwards or back or like side to side. Like you've got a bit more wiggle room. Whereas with a power jerk, you know, if the bar's out in front, you're going to really struggle to step forwards to compensate that and to rescue it. But I do power jerks as an assistance exercise because that's what they are kind of there for, really, is an assistance exercise to get your dip and drive much straighter, to then help with your split jerk so you don't have to, you know, lean forwards and run around with the bar over your head and all that kind of stuff. Now this next question I really liked, and it's something that I'm kind of, passionate's maybe the wrong word, but it's something that's important to me, especially as a coach, is when to use wrist wraps, belts, sleeves, etc., and from what weight and percentage. So I think this is a really difficult one, especially with younger lifters, is they really want to have the knee sleeves, they want to have the belt because they see the top lifters wearing them, and therefore they want to look like the top lifters. And I understand why, but there's also the point of, if you're new to the game, you need to build what I call your internal belt. So you've got your core, like that is the belt, your God-given belt that is going to hold you strong, and you need to get that strong. And although doing core exercises is going to help that, obviously, and it's important that you do those the whole way through your training, but lifting without your belt, like the external one, is going to build that strength. If you put that belt on, like an external belt, it means that your body is going to rely on it and you're not going to build that internal belt up. I mean, with my first coach, I wasn't allowed a belt until I could squat 100 kilos. And I think that's fair because until that point, like your body doesn't need it. So that's, you know, what did I weigh at the time? About 60 kilos. So it's getting up relatively near a double body weight squat. So you can make that kind of comparable across the board. If you've got back problems, then wear a belt. But also look at why you've got back problems. If you're, you know, an experienced lifter and you've got back problems, then you're going to wear a belt. But for a new lifter, like wearing a belt isn't necessary. And also, like when it comes to knee sleeves, again, like the thick knee sleeves, unless you have like knee pain, as a new lifter, you don't need the thick or any knee sleeves, because your knees haven't taken enough of a beating yet, and you're probably not lifting enough weight yet to need them. It's one of those things that as you get better, use them. And then again with wrists, so I used, until lockdown, I used to have to put wrist wraps on for anything past the empty bar, because I just couldn't, like, I would be in so much pain, especially snatching. Like if I put 35, 45 kilos on, if I snatched and forgot to put my straps on, like I'd bin the bar so quickly, because I'd be in so much pain. But over this last 9-10 weeks, whatever it's been, I've been working virtually with my physio, and we've done so much like forearm work, hand scraping, like all this kind of mobility work. And I haven't, apart from yesterday, which was the first time I've had my wrist straps on for the 10 weeks, and that's because I was doing overhead squats, and that time under tension on your wrist is not very nice. So I don't really intend to use them now, unlike my belt. So when do I put them on, at what percentage? So my knee sleeves I put on from, let me think about it, 70% I put my knee sleeves on. And my wrist straps, I'm probably going to like evaluate that now and kind of play around with it. Like I said previously, I used to put it on right at the start. But I'll probably evaluate again now. Probably maybe the same times I put my knee sleeves on, I'll put them on. And then when it comes to my belt, so my belt I put on normally from about 105 kilos on clean and jerk. So what does that work out as a percentage? I couldn't tell you. You guys can work it out. I clean and jerked 128, but it's up there around that kind of 80% mark again. So that gives you a bit of a guide, because then, like I was saying about the younger lifters, if you do your warm-ups without your belt, you're going to be building those core muscles and all that kind of stuff. So that's that. But yeah, I'm going to do an upper body mobility video to tell you guys about the wrist straps sort of situation and what I've done to help combat it and all that kind of stuff, so that you guys can learn too, and hopefully not have to rely on external sources to look after your body. So the next question is a little bit more technical. How do you stop coming onto your toes for snatch? Question's a little bit ambiguous, because obviously you want to come onto your toes in snatch. I don't know if they mean in the catch position. So if it's in the catch position, then you need to be looking at if there's an issue in your mobility. So if you've got tight shoulders, the bar's going to be out in front, and that's going to bring you onto your toes. You could have struggle with ankle mobility, which again is going to affect things. I'm assuming they don't mean in the pull, because obviously you are going to come through onto your toes in the pull. So I'm assuming they mean in the catch. So yeah, look at the mobility down the chain and look where it's coming from. Start with the ankles. Do the knee to wall test. Are they coming up when you squat? Do things like overhead squat, snatch balance, like where can you feel tightness that's maybe affecting it. Make sure you're working with a coach. Like that's what your coach is there for at the end of the day. Like if you're coming onto your toes, your coach should know the reason why, and if they don't, you need to find a new coach. So it's kind of the brutal honesty. Next question was from a discus thrower. How many times a week should they lift? What volume to program of snatch, clean and jerk, snatch, clean, behind it jerk, deadlift, bench, squat, etc. That question is bigger than the answer I can give in this, but I guess it's first thing, it depends on how much of your athletics training you're doing, how much you can fit in, like physically, like what time availability you have, and also how demanding your training is on the track, and how like where you are in your competition schedule is also going to have quite an impact on that, because you don't want to be doing loads of training and volume in the gym when it's coming up to, you know, hopefully outdoor season and training. Discus thrower, my first kind of thing is, can you snatch? Because generally the upper body is a little bit too tight to get in that snatch position. I'm assuming maybe you mean a power snatch, so you've not got to sit into the hole as much. With things like snatches and cleans, I'd never really, for like strength purposes and power purposes, do more than 3 reps. 5 sets, 3 reps. Occasionally I'll do 5s for a little bit of fitness, but for what you guys want it for, probably leave it at like reps of 3. And around that kind of 75-80%, you don't need to be pushing it heavy. You're not a weightlifter, you're an athletics, you're a discus thrower. So yeah, I know that athletes use behind neck jerk quite a lot because of the mobility, getting into the front rack. So again, looking at 3s, deadlift, bench, squat, maybe 5s, kind of working at a weight that you can get out like 5s on those kind of rep ranges and stuff. Next question. How does weightlifting translate to everyday activities? I mean, it doesn't. It doesn't even help me carry my shopping in, because unless it was on a bar that I could put above my head, like, it doesn't help me get my shopping from the car into the flat at all. But I have noticed I do some stuff. So I was in Germany and there was a little kid and it was about to run off the stage. So I ran to pick it up and the photographer actually got pictures. And it turns out I pick a baby up like I'm setting myself to lift. Like my back was perfectly straight. Like there was no rounding. So I guess maybe weightlifting has taught me to look after my body a little bit more. And by default, I make sure my back's like in tight and stuff like that. So unfortunately, because it's one of those things, like someone's like, oh, I'm moving house. Sarah, can you come and give me a hand? You're a weightlifter. And I'm like, that's not how this works. And I don't want to risk hurting myself. So sorry, find someone else. Competition warm-up lifts and jumps to openers. Like what do I do and what jumps do I take? So I think a problem that I see really frequently with new lifters and especially new coaches is warming up too early. So, you know, when you're having your last heavy session in the gym, time how long it takes you from getting in the gym and like putting your boots on, how long it takes you to warm up. So like make sure that includes your body weight stuff, like time how long that takes, so that you and your coach, when you go into that competition, know, right, I need 10 minutes to do my body weight stuff, and then to take me from the empty bar to my opening attempt is going to take me another 12 minutes, whatever it's going to be. Like work that out, because I see people like start warming up too early and then they've done like a full training session before they go out for their first attempt because they've just kept repeating reps and reps to stay warm. So my body weight warm up takes me about 10 minutes. I do maybe 2-3 sets with an empty bar, and then from there I go 45 kilos. So I always say that your first weight on the bar should be less than 50% of your best snatch. So I go 45 kilos first for a set of 3, sometimes 2 sets of 3, depending on how I'm feeling and how I'm moving. I then jump straight to 65. So I go 45, 65, 75. These are all for 3s. And then I do a double at 80, double at 85, a single at 90, and then a single at 94 maybe, and then normally open on about 96 or 7. So because I snatch around the 100 mark, you can work that out in terms of percentages on what you do. So yeah, I do 3s all the way up to 75%. Then I drop to doubles for 80 and 8, double at 80, and then maybe like a slow double at 85. So it might be a double. If we've got time, we'll do it as 2 singles. And then singles at 90 and then 93/4. When it comes to clean and jerk, again, a couple of sets with the empty bar. Then I jump to 55, again, making sure it's less than 50% of your best snatch. So I go 55, 75, 90. They're all doubles. And then I drop to singles and go 100, 110, 115, 120, and then normally out on like 123 or something like that. So you're looking at like 7-8 attempts in the back room before I go out. But you've also got the thing of the more weight you lift, the further you've got to go. So like for you, if you did 8, like if you snatch 45, you plan to go out on 45 kilos, you're going to struggle to get in 8 like staggered going up. But it might be a case of you do a couple more sets on the empty bar or a couple more sets at that lighter end to make sure you're fully warm. And at the end of the day, your competition warm-up should be the same as what you do in training for a heavy session. So however you'd like, maybe next time you've got a heavy session, write down what you do in your warm-ups and like if it works, and then do that for a couple of heavy sessions in the build up to your competition and see what's similar, see what's, you know, what worked, what didn't work, and then you know for competition day what to do. Recovery tips. Sleep some more. Yeah, the reason babies sleep so much is because they need to grow and get bigger and stronger. So it's the exact same thing for weight training. For your muscles to repair, you need to be sleeping. You can have all the gadgets in the world, but if you're not getting enough sleep, then it's, you know, you're not gonna recover. And also protein is the next one. So my first thing is sleep. My second thing is protein, making sure you're getting enough of both of those. In terms of protein, I know I said I'd do a separate nutrition thing, but 2 grams per kilogram of body weight is what protein macros you should be hitting for strength training. And then what else do I like to do for recovery? I like to get a massage and or see my physio. I like to have a nice hot bath. I'll put my power dot on. You can see my power dot review from the other day. I have now got a Theragun, which I'm trying out too for my recovery. But yeah, relaxing basically. Ankle mobility that works. So I have got one ankle that has been stuck for years. Like I've had so many physios look at it. And I was like, I've got a stiff ankle, and I've tried all the stuff with the bands and all that kind of nonsense. And it wasn't until I saw my physio that I see now. And actually the issue wasn't my ankle, but it was my foot. So my foot was really flat. So my arch was down, which meant my ankle couldn't move in the range that it needed to. So we did loads of work on strengthening the arch of my foot, which then helped my ankle mobility improve. So that is also on my to-do list of videos, is ankles and lower body, kind of targeting those on a video. So watch out for that to come, because like I said, it's something that was really important for me. And also making sure your calves are loose too. We kind of forget to look after our calves because we just do. And they're not necessarily that nice to look after, and they're hard to roll yourself. But we use our calves all day, every day, just walking around. And the same with our feet, making sure you're releasing off your feet, because they get used even when we're not in the gym. So making sure that you're doing everything you can to keep those as loose as possible. The next couple of questions are more on the mental side of it. So how to push your body to the limits when your mind gives up. This isn't something, if you'd asked me that 12 months ago, I wouldn't have been able to answer the question for you, but I had a few mental challenges in my personal life in the last 12 months, which made training very difficult. And for me, it was a little bit different because I knew I was training for the Olympics, so that kind of kept me training. But it was more going through the motions training, and I picked up some really bad habits along the way. So it was kind of a bit of a tricky one. And then coming out of the back of the year, I lost my confidence lifting, which was really, really unusual for me. But it's about doing what's right for you. At the start of this lockdown, when the Olympics got cancelled, my mind checked out. I was like, nope, not training. And it's about listening to that. If you're feeling rubbish, take that time to stop, reset, relax, step away from the gym, do something different that you just fancy doing, and then get back to weightlifting when you feel ready to get back to it. Which is what I did at the start of lockdown. I had 9 weeks of just ticking over, doing some squats now and then, doing a lift now and then. I was doing 2 exercises at the most in a training session. My training diary looks completely different for lockdown than it does for any other day ever in my training. Normally I'm doing 4 or 5 exercises. But yeah, listen, because if your brain is telling you something, then there's probably a reason why. Maybe you're, really fatigued, you've overtrained, you've not recovered properly, and that's why your brain is kind of going into fight or flight mode and look, we need to stop, otherwise we're going to be in a really bad situation. And the next one is mental barriers and how to overcome them. So making sure you've got a good coach, because a coach shouldn't just write your program. They should support you in that psychological side of things as well. So making sure that they are doing that, and a good coach will build your confidence with the right exercises. So if you're having a bit of a wobbly with snatch and you're getting, scared to get underneath it, which I had 6 months ago, having exercises heavier, heaving snatch balance to build that confidence, dropping under, and, programming the right weight so that you have successful reps, and that builds your confidence back up. And then when you go into competition, go into competition just to build your confidence. So I didn't make a total in December in China, and then I went to Rome 6 weeks later, and the main part of being in Rome was look, it's a new year. Last year was shit, quite frankly, with competitions, with life. Let's go to Rome and let's just put a total on the board and just enjoy ourselves and remember why we enjoy weightlifting. And that's exactly what I did. I didn't leave with a big total, but I left that competition floor happy and nearly died, but that's a whole different story. I didn't do PBs. I was probably strong enough to, but it was about having a successful competition and remembering why I love the sport and remembering why I love being back up on that platform. So as I said, I've got a nutrition question and answer coming, but the question was around approximate calories per day. So for me, it probably is about that 2,000 mark because of my body weight and making sure I maintain it. But I don't actually track calories at all. I get on the scales every morning, keep an eye on my body weight. If it's going up, I rein it in. If it's going down, I eat a little bit more. And that's about as scientific as my nutrition gets, really. But I'll make sure my nutrition video is a little bit more interesting than that, guys. And the final question, did the bar hit me in Rome? So I did nearly die, but no, it did not hit me. I managed to get out of the way. I am thankful for my many years of gymnastics training that helped me get out of the way of that fall. And the only time that it hit me was as I was kind of almost on the center referee table and I saw the bar coming at me through my legs. I saw it still like heading towards me, a bit like any of your Harry Potter fans. There's the ball that's like cursed in Quidditch and it like keeps trying to get Harry. I felt a bit like that with that bar, like it was out to get me, and I just stuck my feet out to stop it crashing into me. But I did manage to stay out of the way. I did actually overstretch my elbow a tiny bit on that lift, but we carried on and went back out and snatched 96 and clean jerked 121. So this lockdown's actually been really good for that because it's allowed that to settle down, because I was kind of managing it in what would have been the build up to the Europeans, but this time has meant it's kind of relaxed and fully healed. So that is my training question and answer. Now you want to know how you can win yourself this lovely belt signed by me. So what you have to do, you have to like this video, you have to subscribe to my channel, and then you have to comment down below of what other videos you want to see on my YouTube channel. So like, subscribe, and comment down below. So I hope you guys will enter, because this belt is a leather belt. It's worth quite a lot of money. Like I said, it's a very special belt to me, so it's a big deal for me to be giving it away. But I really appreciate everyone's support that has joined my channel over the last month or so when I've kind of kicked it back up and running again. So yeah, like, subscribe, comment down below, and I will be making the draw in 1 week. So that will be on the 1st of June at 6 o'clock British summertime in the evening. I will be making the draw for the Eleiko belt. So watch this space and watch your messages, because I will be sending you a message. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Make sure you follow me on Instagram too for any future questions that I might like question boxes that I might post for you to ask questions around future videos. So hope you enjoyed it. Sending you lots of love. Stay safe and well. Bye, guys.